is my honor to welcome Kim Frost, founder of Bespoke Financial Services, an advisory practice that deals with assisting clients to meet their financial obligations with the goal of leaving behind meaningful legacies. Kim has over 20 years financial planning experience, and in addition to being an expert in her field, she's a wife and a mom of 2 boys. Kim, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Kim, so as we all know, the last 20 months have been extremely difficult for many of us. And with high mortality rates being reported by insurers due to COVID, this has been a great eye-opener for many to make sure their financial affairs are in order, not just for themselves, but for their families and their loved ones they leave behind. I know this is a topic you're very passionate about. Why is this so important to you?
So a number of years ago, I had a client and he was dying of cancer. And I had to go to his house and sit around the table. And I wanted to assure him that everything was in place, everything was 100% correct, and that he was leaving behind a large sum of money for his family and all of his affairs were in order. And after everybody had left, he turned to me and he said to me, "Kim, what was all of this for?" And it made me really reflect about money. And it made me reflect about the dying process and really trying to understand not only the money aspect, but the meaning of money and the legacy that you want to leave behind with the money.
I think that speaks to the fact that the topic is a very difficult discussion to have for many. And that is because a lot of people fear the idea of death. I mean, if I think of my own example and my own experience, growing up, my parents would never share their plans that they had in place upon death because they struggled to come to terms with that being a reality one day, you know. And then further to that, I think about the various research studies that are out there that speak to how women are more afraid of death than men. In your experience when dealing with clients, especially where women are concerned, would you agree?
Sure, that's a lot of information. So first of all, let me unpack it. First of all, the fear about dying. I mean, the fear is so real, but sometimes we kind of suppress it and we think women are more fearful than men. But in my experience, very often when I've counseled men who are dying and the spouse is out of the room, the fear comes out. But they've had to pretend that they are exceptionally brave. And so it's very, very, very difficult because what you need to do is truly hold the space for them at that time. So, I mean, death is such a difficult thing in the whole process, and sometimes it becomes so real. And yeah, it's a difficult topic to handle, but it is something that we have to address, and it's something where we have to move into that space, ask those difficult questions, and just hold the space for the client to unpack it as to what he's going through and helping him or her in that case.
And I mean, that can't be easy, and especially since you have to deal with that quite a lot. But I was reading the other day, and according to Stats SA, the life expectancy for men and women in South Africa has increased by 4 years. However, on the other hand, the pandemic has reminded us that a lot can change in a short space of time. So when advising your clients, how do you deal with that contrast of, on the one hand, catering for living longer, and on the other, preparing the client for the reality that their lives could end prematurely?
Yes, I think what COVID has shown us is that, it's not if you die, it's when you die. And it's about living your best life now. So when advising a client, obviously what you're trying to do is you're trying to go and match their asset allocation with their needs and their wants in life. You're trying to make enough money available to fulfill their life at this moment, but make sure that they have enough. Take into account the legacy that they want to leave behind. Take into account their wishes, whether they want to leave money to a charity. So when you're structuring a portfolio, just because you've got someone sitting in front of you who's maybe 90 years old, doesn't mean you need to be conservative. Because what that person, when they have a huge amount of money, what they're actually doing is they're planning for the next generation. So it really is not one size fits all. It's really about like listening to what people truly want and making sure that you can fulfill that story for them. Yeah. And combining the asset allocation very well in order to meet all those requirements.
Kim, I mean, I think how you've just answered that shows the passion and the time that you take when advising your clients. And, it leads me to a phrase that I saw on your website, which really stuck out to me, that says, you've succeeded when your clients run out of breath before they run out of money. So what would the top factors or points that you would advise clients on to do now in order to be able to achieve that successful outcome for their families and their dependents?
Yeah, so there are a number of things. I mean, the first thing is, when you want to leave a legacy, you don't want to leave a legacy of mistakes. So you need to make sure that all your administrative stuff is in order. So you need to make sure that your tax affairs, all the basic stuff, you need to make sure that your tax affairs are in order. You need to make sure that you have a will, and you need to make sure that people know where that will is. I've had cases where it's been missing. You need to make sure if you have a crypto account that someone knows what the password to that is. You need to know where your deeds of your house are. So there's so many things, and you should really have a tick box that you go through and cover everything as though you're going to die. And then on top of that, you need to make sure when you start out, when you're young, you basically have life assurance to take care of your family, because you wouldn't necessarily have enough money. And then you'd start accumulating real wealth by investing, by partnering with strategic asset management companies, advisors, creating wealth in the correct structures over a long period of time. It's not a one-day thing. To manage your money and to manage your financial affairs and your estate well takes years. And you need to partner with someone to do that properly.
Yeah. So really, you need to get some good advice.
Absolutely. I always like to tell stories because it's really real for me then. And I had this client, also he had cancer, a 50-year-old man, 3 young children, and over the years we've got all of his stuff. It's 100% in order. And so the other day I went to his house and I said to him, how are you doing? How are you doing? And he said to me, Kim, I just have to say something to you. He said, I'm telling you, when I'm wheeled into the hospital and I look at those lights, every single time I think to myself, thank you for Kim, And so for me, that's a function of our job. A function is making money, but the other function is making sure that we have everything in place for your family when you're not around anymore to fulfill that function for them.
And to end off, so you just mentioned now that it's not just about money. So what are the key things that one can leave behind outside of the financial aspect of an inheritance that one can leave behind for their loved ones? So essentially what I'm asking is, how does one leave behind a meaningful legacy?
It's a very good question. I mean, I would say the best thing is to write your story. And I found so many people don't think their story is a worthwhile story. But when you sit and you listen and you unpack that story, you realize everybody has a remarkable story. And that story needs to be transferred. It needs to be transferred with your money. It needs to be passed down to your family so that the future generations that get your money, they know your highs, they know your lows, they know the disappointments, and they realize that the money that they received is a gift and it comes with the energy of someone else. So I would say write your story down for them.
Kim, thank you for taking the time out to have this conversation with me and for your valuable insights. I believe that this will help a lot of women out there.
Thank you so much for inviting me. And partnering with the best is really what it's all about. Thank you.